Nick from the Amateurs here, and today we're taking a look at this. Now this is a peanut lighter that I picked up off of eBay. For those who don't know, peanut lighters are these very tiny petrol lighters. So in here you've got a flint and flint wheel, a cotton wool and a wick, basically a tiny little Zippo. Now these are quite popular amongst kind of survivalists, EDCers, people that want a way to make fire with them at all times. Now the advantage these have over other petrol lighters like kind of your Imcos and Zippos is that they've got an O-ring around here which in theory stops all of your fuel from evaporating, so it's there when you need it. Picked this one up off of eBay. I think it's about £4. You can get these for even less if you are happy to wait for it to be shipped from China, but this was UK stock. These are generally a lot more expensive than this. So the one you could normally get in the UK was the True Utility Fire Stash. Those I think were £7 or £8. So we're looking at about half of that. So we're going to see how good this is. Now, as far as I can tell, this is kind of a cheap pot metal or some sort of aluminium construction. Casting isn't great. On the bottom, I'll do a close up of this in a moment. You've got kind of these fun indentations and a little logo, and it says 1989 Dolphin. I don't think that means anything. I think when it was being made in China, they just threw together a year and a random word in English. But I think it looks pretty cool aesthetically, especially compared to some other peanut lighter designs. Some of them are just kind of very plain capsule, some of them have a rounded bottom, which means that unlike this one, you can't put them down and use them as a little candle. So I'm not a smoker, however I do like to have a lighter on me just for those situations where you do need to light something or heat something up. For me this is something that happens a lot because I'm a chemistry teacher, so almost hardly a day goes by where I don't need to light something, normally a Bunsen burner, or warm something up. Usually I'll be carrying kind of a big jet lighter like this one, or even some matches. I quite like carrying these Strike Anywhere matches, kind of to screw with my students because I can just strike them on random things, and when I let them use matches, give them regular safety matches, and just watching them trying to strike them on their desks. It's hilarious. Anyway, back to our peanut lighter. We're going to get this filled up and give it a test. So, more of a close-up look at this peanut lighter. It really is very small. It's about the size of kind of the top segment of my little finger, so I guess like 2.5 centimetres long, maybe 1 centimetre wide. As I said, it's kind of cast in this quite cheap pot metal, probably some sort of aluminium alloy. You've got some imperfections in the casting there. I think it looks okay. Could be intentional, but probably isn't. As I said, you've got these little grooves, top and bottom. I think it makes it doesn't objectively look like a bullet, but it somehow makes it look kind of like a bullet casing. Not sure why. Probably because of this bit on the bottom where, as I've said, you've got this 1989 Dolphin and this little logo. It looks weirdly like the True Utility logo on the bottom. Up top, got this little split ring, key ring, which I'm going to be using to net carry it. It'll end up on my keys if I don't get on with the net carry. Opening it up, got the lid there, flint wheel and the wick, and then to take those out you just pull it apart. You can see that bit of corrosion in the bottom where the cheap metal casing's been in contact with the brass screw. Got the cotton plug, and underneath our cotton wool. Now the wick on this, when I've had the cotton wool out, is incredibly short. It's not even an inch long. And it hasn't got wire in it to give it some shape and structure like a Zippo wick. So what I might end up doing, depending on how it does, is to replace it with a short strip of Zippo wick just so it's got that bit of wire in there to give it a bit of structure. So to fill this up, we unscrew it and then we just pull out this insert like you would any other petrol lighter. It's quite hard to see because it's so small. And that slides out, you've got the insert there, casing there. Now on the bottom you've got kind of a thick cotton wool plug, and then you've got your cotton wool and wick inside and a little flint tube with a spring with the flint. I'm not going to take that out on camera. I have had it out just to have a look in there. It's incredibly fiddly, probably the smallest spring I've ever seen in a lighter, so I'm not going to fight with that on camera. Now to fill this up, I'm just going to pop it upside down in its casing, We'll take some of this. So it's just regular lice fluid, like you might use in, say, a Zippo or any other petrol lighter. And you just want to take this and pour it onto the cotton wool until it's saturated. Just give that a minute to soak through. Now obviously you haven't got very much cotton wool here, so you're not going to want very much fuel. Okay, so once you've got that filled, pop away your lice fluid, which hopefully won't be needing that for a few months if this does what it's supposed to, and then just pop the little cotton plug back in the bottom. Now I can see in the bottom of here where the brass screw for the flint has been against this cheap kind of pot metal or aluminium casing, there is a bit of corrosion, so not holding out much hope for the build quality of this. Okay then, so let's try and light it. So these are so small and incredibly fiddly, they're quite hard to light two-handed, but if we strike the flint, there you've got your flame. Actually a huge flame on that. Not windproof, there's no sort of shield around it, so we wouldn't expect any sort of level of windproofing. That wick might actually need pulling back through a bit, because that's an awful lot of flame. It's completely engulfing the striker wheel. So we'll open it up again and we'll pull that wick through a bit. There's a very short piece of wick here. Just using tweezers to just pull that wick back into the casing of it. Now just stuff our cotton wool back in there. Cotton plug back on. Back in the casing. Hopefully we should now have a more reasonably sized flame. Yes, that's a bit more sensible. Obviously to put these out you can always just take the cap and snuff them, but they're not, as I've said, not at all windproof, so they will blow out nice and easily. You can see there, that O-ring, which in theory should keep the fuel in, although it's not the best thread or the best seal, so I'm not optimistic, but we will see. Okay then, so I'm going to carry this for a few weeks now and see how I get on with it. I'm not at work at the moment, we're all teaching from home in the UK because of the latest UK lockdown, so I'm not really having to light anything day to day, so really I'm just going to carry it and once in a while just pop it out and see if it still strikes up. As I said earlier, the fact that it's got that flat bottom means that you can put it down and use it as a candle, though I probably wouldn't recommend that. The wick is already starting to singe. This is very small, so it'll get very hot very quickly. Yeah, so carry it, see how we get on with it. So let's get the cap back on, get that O-ring nice and sealed. Now I'm going to try and neck carry this. So I already neck carry my Kershaw dog tag tool, and I find that that's quite handy to have around my neck. I think it looks quite cool. The world seems to be ending, so I'm just kind of leaning into this sort of Mad Max apocalypse aesthetic almost. So get that on there, carry it for a few weeks and see how we get on. If I find it's not working out on my neck chain, I'll probably end up going on my keys. So yeah, that's it for today. I will see you in a couple of weeks. Okay, so it's one cheesy YouTube transition and about 6 weeks later. So I set up the lighter, filled it up with fuel at the end of January. It's now the middle of March. So I have been neck carrying it a little bit, but not as much as I'd hoped. Partly because I found I just wasn't using it, and also because I've been back in work and didn't want to wear it under a shirt where it could be seen. So here we've got it. Let's see if it still sparks up. So we had just like the tiniest flicker of a flame there, and then it went straight out. So this hasn't held fuel, all the fuel's all been used up. You can probably see there the wick is supercharged, so it's been burning the wick rather than the fuel. On the whole, not very impressed, but also not very surprising. So this was just a couple of pounds on eBay. You can get these super cheap on websites like Wish and other eBay sellers if you want them shipped from China. But to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't recommend it. So as I said, I have been carrying this. I have struck it up every few days when I've been taking it off. So it might just be that I've burnt through the fuel, because obviously you have got a very tiny reservoir there. It's only going to hold a very small amount of fuel. And it is quite poorly made, so even though I couldn't smell any fuel or feel any fuel seeping out of it, it might be that that O-ring wasn't keeping the fuel in and it was still leaking out. So in short, I probably wouldn't recommend this lighter. Now, just after I filmed the first part of this video, I did try and replace the wick with a more substantial one that's meant for a Zippo. However, the hole that's drilled for this wick is very tiny and I couldn't get the Zippo wick through there. Also, I would recommend against trying to cut dry Zippo wicks. I found it generated lots of very tiny fibres that were very difficult to clean up and irritated my nose and throat. On the whole though, yeah, this tiny little peanut lighter is just not really a good product. Maybe that's coming from me as someone who does actually use a lighter a bit and has one on them already. Perhaps if you're someone who just wants that emergency ability to make fire, but you're unlikely to ever use it, for those one-off occasions it might be alright. But even then, I would probably recommend buying a more premium peanut lighter and possibly a larger one, something with just a bit more of a fuel reserve. It's maybe also good to bung into a little survival kit if you just want a very compact fire starter. But again, I think this test has shown that with this level of quality control and these pretty poor materials, it's probably not a hugely reliable product. So probably not the most satisfying video in that we've just shown that something doesn't work, but hopefully this will at least inform anyone who is thinking of buying one of these that maybe they should look for something else, or at least a more premium peanut lighter. So I'm going to pop the cap back on. I don't really know what I'm going to do with this. I might just clear the innards out of it and have it as a little kind of pill capsule, because I do still think that aesthetically it does look pretty cool. That's about it for today though. Hopefully you found this video helpful, if not entertaining. We do loads of gear stuff on this channel, we do airgun stuff, all sorts of stuff, so do please consider hitting the subscribe button. If you've enjoyed this, if you found it useful, please do hit the like button and let me know what you think in the comments. That's all for today though. I've been Jamie, this has been Cluey Amateurs, and I'll see you next time.